All right, good morning everyone and welcome to our Grants for University Pre-Accelerators information session. My name's Ellie Phillips and I'm the Head of Startup Development here at LaunchVic. So I'll be running our information session for you today. Just a quick call out for anyone on the call. This particular grant round is targeted at universities. So if you are a founder or a startup or a student, it may not be relevant to yourself, but obviously we'll go through the eligibility criteria in a little bit more detail. I'm going to run through a couple of the key points of the grant round, but feel free to pop any questions that you've got into the chat as we go. And I'll try and get to them as we go, but otherwise there'll be plenty of time at the end. Great, so if we jump into it with a little bit of an introduction on kind of why we're here and why this grant round. As many of you will know, LaunchVic has been around for a while now, and we've seen significant growth in the Victorian ecosystem over the last 7 years, from around kind of 1,000 startups to now over 3,500. And a lot of our experience has shown that pre-accelerated programs are a key driver of the startup creation, providing that support and advice and networks to startups to help them on their journey. We've supported 24 pre-accelerator programs to date in a range of sectors, and as part of this round, we're looking to support more. So with over 420,000 current Victorian university students and 115,000 plus of those not having access to university-based programs, we see a big opportunity for more pre-accelerators in these university environments to support these students in kind of starting their own startups. And I'll come back to this again later, but I should say when I say to support these students, we're targeting programs that would support students that don't have access currently, but the programs are able to be open to a broader audience than that. So the objectives of this funding round, as I've said, is to establish new pre-accelerators in university environments and boost that startup creation. We're looking to support those startup entrepreneurs by helping them bring their startup idea to life and to create that first MVP, so those really early stages. And overall, the goal of this, of course, is to increase the pipeline of startups being created across Victoria. So in this round, we want to see new high-quality pre-accelerator programs established and delivered by Victorian-based universities. And we're trying to give Victorian universities the opportunity to apply for funding, both to develop a greater entrepreneurship focus within the uni and consequently deliver these programs. You will have seen in the grant guidelines that successful applicants will receive funding of up to $400,000 exclusive of GST. And we're looking for this to be put towards programs that are delivered over a minimum of 2 years. So I'll draw your attention to a couple of key definitions, but of course there are more definitions in the guidelines. The first is a pre-accelerator program. So this grant round is for the establishment of new pre-accelerator programs, so those that did not run in 2024 or have already started to run in 2025. And a pre-accelerator is really a program targeted at startup entrepreneurs who have a technology-based idea for their startup and want to kind of establish their business and start to build that MVP. Now, if you're not clear on the definition of a startup that we use, you can find that again in the guidelines or on our website. And typically pre-accelerators run for kind of a designated period of time, generally minimum of 6 weeks, and participants will graduate from this program with a cohort having followed a set methodology to start a startup. Often these programs also act as pathways into accelerators. The second definition that I'll call your attention to is Victorian university students. So for the purposes of this grant round, Victorian university students are those that are studying at a Victorian university and currently residing in the state of Victoria. As I briefly mentioned before, it's worth noting that while we're primarily looking to increase access to pre-accelerators for Victorian university students, the program is able to be open more broadly than that to postgraduate, undergraduate, research teams, or the general population of Victoria. And we don't have a strong preference, for example, between undergraduate and postgraduate students in this round. And finally, operating costs. I won't read the whole list here, you can see it, but these are some of the ways you're eligible to use the funding from this grant round, and it generally covers all of the costs that would be required to run the program. So if I jump into eligibility next, I've pulled out 4 of them from the grant guidelines, and again, there are more in the guidelines. First one is around program focus. So as I've said, it must be a new pre-accelerator program. It can't be kind of replacing or rebranding an existing program. But it could be a feeder program into something that already exists if you wish. For this round, though, we're not targeting any particular industry verticals, and it is up to each applicant to decide kind of where the greatest need is in your context. I've just seen a question come through from Margaret, so thank you, Margaret. Does new include additional pre-accelerators, i.e. if a uni has one or more pre-accelerators already running, but it adds another to include a vertical focus, or students not currently attracted to existing offerings? Absolutely. So as long as we're not seeing that you're kind of cancelling one program so that you can run this one and it is truly additional, then that would count as new. We would be looking to understand kind of the need and the gap that it is filling, but that absolutely would count as a new pre-accelerator program. The next eligibility criteria is around applicant experience. So here, what we're looking to see is that either you, as the university, have the experience to deliver this pre-accelerated program, or particularly where there are unis that don't already run programs, we're looking to see that you have a strong plan on how to bring that capability in. So whether that be hiring or through delivery partners, we want to know that you either have the experience or have a strong plan to bring that in. In terms of type of organisation, I briefly touched on this at the start, but we are opening this grant round only to Victorian universities, and you can see a list of which universities are included in this on the Live in Melbourne website. While kind of dual sector universities are eligible to apply from the university lens, dedicated TAFE and other research institutes are not eligible for this particular grant round. And then finally, match contributions. So we do require a minimum of expectation of a matched cash or in-kind contribution for this grant round. And just to be clear, that can be cash or in-kind. And you'll need to detail out kind of what these contributions are and how they'll be used in the funding section of the assessment criteria. You're welcome to include other partner contributions in the grant application, but they won't count towards the matched application. Before I jump to the next session, we've got a question from Anthony from ACU. So the guidelines define Victorian university students, however, does not define research teams. Does this include research staff or only higher degree research students? So the purpose of this grant is really, our goal is to make sure that all or as many as possible university students have access to these programs, but you're absolutely welcome to design a program that includes or targets research teams as well. We're open to everything, to those aspects there. Ultimately, kind of from the, if I step back, ultimately the goal is to create more entrepreneurial ecosystems within the university environment. So if your program kind of works towards that, it could be eligible. And then another question from Sarah Seller. Thank you. In university, by experience, the students are very green in their entrepreneurial mindset. So we might need several sessions or programs to bring them to the quality the ecosystem needs. Absolutely. Your definition is very broad. So can we have a pre-accelerator that gets students from a rather validated and thought through idea and bring them to an MVP? Yes. So if you want to kind of break down the pre-accelerator journey, I guess, that's fine. Typically, we'll say a pre-accelerator follows kind of the journey through to the MVP or kind of the launched business, as opposed to kind of in market with traction, which generally would be more of an accelerator. But if we have seen in the past pre-accelerator programs that have kind of almost a pre-accelerator that gets them primed, and then a further program that takes them through that MVP. So I think that would still fall within the realm of pre-accelerator, yes. Okay, so I'll jump into some of the key assessment criteria, and I do have all of it on all of the slides, but I won't go into a lot of detail about each piece. As always, if you've got further questions, you can send them through to grants or here while we're live as well. So the first section is the overview section, and here we're really looking to understand what your proposed program is about, the need for it in your university context, and how it kind of fits into your broader innovation or entrepreneurship strategy, and as well as kind of any information on programs that you already have so that we can help to assess that, the gap and the need. Next up, then, we have the program delivery piece, and here we're really looking to understand how you will run the program and ensure that it is high quality to kind of meet the goals that you outlined in section 1. For the section on outcomes, we're looking to see what the kind of learning outcomes or results for graduated participants should look like, and how that program delivery that you've already described in the previous section would help to achieve this. Then next up, we have the experience and expertise. So here we want to know that to the eligibility criteria that I mentioned previously, that your team or proposed delivery team can deliver this. So in that section A, we want to know which category you fit into. Do you have proven expertise already? Are you planning to bring in a delivery team who does? Or do you have a clear plan to recruit the key personnel? And then section B and C are really just kind of the double click and extra information on that and the capabilities that your team has or that you would be looking for in that team. Then we move to the funding section. So this is where we'll be asking for your budget for the project, as well as things like the match contribution. We do often see applicants struggling with the budget section. So we do want to see that all of your income and expenses total to the same amount in the table. And in the income, that will be a combination of the grant amount that you've requested, as well as any matched or above contributions that the applicant, are putting towards the grant. And then we want to see how all of that income is allocated towards expenses in the program. Finally, in the diversity and inclusion section, this one's reasonably self-explanatory, but it's where you can share how you're thinking about your program and ensuring that the design and delivery is upholding the diversity, equity, and inclusion values that your organisation has. So we're almost through the end of the slides that I've got. So keep sending through your questions. In the meantime, just a quick touch point on timing. So as you know, the grant round has already launched a couple of weeks ago. We are in our information session today, and the round will close on the 22nd of May at 10 a.m. We generally don't accept late applications, and we've given a much longer time frame for this particular round than usual. So please don't wait until the last day to submit your application. Once everything's kind of submitted and closed, we do expect a reasonably quick turnaround from there. So we'll be contacting unsuccessful and shortlisted applicants soon after, and we'll have interviews on Tuesday the 10th or Wednesday the 11th of June. We'll then from there move into kind of contracting and communications to all applicants shortly after. So we'll open it up to any other questions, but a couple of kind of FAQs that we've heard before, and one actually has already come up in this conversation. So I've got an existing program and am I eligible? You're not eligible as an existing program to apply for the grant, but if you have existing programs and this is a new program, then that would be eligible. In terms of whether you can discuss with us to ask questions and have a conversation down the track, we're not offering calls or meetings for applicants under the program, just based under our probity policy to ensure kind of fair and equitable process for all applicants. However, if you're unsure about eligibility or have any other questions, please do email them through to grants@launchvic.org, which you'll have seen the email popping up through this webinar. We generally respond reasonably quickly to inquiries. And then in terms of focus areas that we're looking for, we're not looking for any particular verticals. The focus is on supporting entrepreneurs to launch new startups. And you're very welcome to kind of align to a particular vertical that suits your university within that. Okay, so questions that we've had come through. So there's one here from Caitlin from RMIT Activator. And the question is whether priority will be given to universities who don't currently have a pre-accelerator program if two applications side by side are level with each other. So we have said in the grant guidelines, I think it's towards the end somewhere, that where quality permits, preference will be given to those universities without programs already, and that's to, again, try and reach more students that don't already have access. However, it is where quality permits. Question from Margaret clarifying a point. So the guidelines refer to lack of on-campus pre-accelerator. Does it include preference for physical on-campus delivery? And keen to understand how the 115,000 students were identified and further insights on these. So in terms of preference for on-campus delivery, you're welcome to put forward any proposal in terms of online, hybrid, or on-campus. We do recognise that universities based in Victoria have the advantage of having a physical place, so we would love to see some level of kind of community or event building that has in-person elements, but we'll leave it to you to decide if that's a fully in-person or hybrid or some version of online model. In terms of the 115,000 students, so if you want to see which universities have programs, you'll be able to look through each of their websites. We grabbed the number of students based on some publicly available data in terms of how many are at each university, and then combined that with our knowledge and desktop research of which universities do and don't have programs. I won't actually go through that list. You're very welcome to have a search on each university's webpage, though, to see which do and don't have programs, but it's just a combination of those two pieces. A question from Kelly: are incubator programs ran with university-affiliated clubs also eligible to apply, or must applicants be universities? So as I mentioned in the eligibility piece, we do require the lead applicant to be a university. Kind of uni-affiliated clubs are very welcome to try and collaborate with the university if relevant. However, the lead applicant does need to be a Victorian university as defined on that Live in Melbourne link. I think that's the questions that we've currently got. So we'll give a minute or two just to see if there's any others that do come through. There we go. There's another one from Caitlin. Would we consider two applications from the same applicant, or suggest focusing on one vertical in one application? So we do allow multiple applications from the same university for this grant round. I would call out, though, that we will be considering kind of the capacity or the ability for the team to deliver on those applications. So I wouldn't recommend just going for quantity. I would recommend focusing on quality, but we do accept multiple. We'll give a couple more seconds for any further questions. Here we go, another one from Lisa. Is there a focus on the university turning the program into a self-sustaining, self-funding model? In an ideal world, yes. But that is not one of the eligibility or kind of assessment criteria for this particular grant round. Obviously, we would love to see all of the programs that we fund reach financial sustainability. We know that that is challenging, particularly in a pre-accelerator context. So there's no dedicated criteria around this, but of course, that's something that we would love to aspire to down the track. And a couple more seconds, and then we will close off the webinar for today. Okay, it seems like that might be all the questions from the room today. As always, you're very welcome to email grants if you do have further questions, and you can find more information about the grant, obviously, on our website, which you can see there on the screen. Thank you all very much for joining, and have a great rest of your day.